Hey everyone, my name is Eleanor. Today I'm going to share something deeply personal and honestly pretty crazy with you. It's the story of my marriage, my divorce, and how I discovered my husband was having an affair. But more than that, it's the story of how I reclaimed my life and found strength I never knew I had. This is my corporate affair story, and trust me, it's a wild ride. For years I thought I had it all. A beautiful home in the suburbs, a successful husband named Mark, and a life that looked picture perfect from the outside. Mark was a rising star at a tech company, smart, driven, and charming. We'd been together for 15 years, married for 10. We'd built a life that felt solid, secure, ours. But beneath the surface, things were starting to shift. Looking back, I can see the subtle signs, the little cracks in the foundation that I ignored because I wanted to ignore them. Mark started working later, traveling more, and becoming increasingly distant. He was always on his phone, his passwords changed constantly. I questioned him, but he gave me excuses. I remember thinking, he's just stressed. The company is putting him under a lot of pressure. I wanted to believe in our marriage, in him. The moment everything shattered was so cliché, I almost laughed. We were getting ready for a dinner party. Remember those? And I went to grab Mark's suit jacket from the closet. As I straightened the lapel, there it was. A lipstick stain. A bright, vibrant red that definitely wasn't mine. In that instant, the world tilted on its axis. All those little doubts, those nagging suspicions, suddenly crystallized into a horrifying truth. My husband was having an affair. My first reaction was disbelief. Then came the anger, the gut-wrenching pain, the feeling of utter betrayal. I felt like an idiot, a fool. How could I have been so blind? How could he do this to me? I knew I couldn't confront Mark without proof. So, I did something I never thought I was capable of. I became a detective. I started paying attention to everything. I checked his phone records, I scanned his emails when he was in the shower, and I even followed him a few times. Okay, maybe more than a few. What I discovered was worse than I imagined. It wasn't just a casual fling. Mark was deeply involved with his assistant, a woman named Bethany. There were emails, text messages, hotel reservations, even gifts that I had never seen before. The evidence was overwhelming, and it was crushing me. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I uncovered a new layer of betrayal. Through some digging and a very helpful, albeit expensive, private investigator, I learned that Bethany wasn't just in love with Mark. She was using him. She saw him as a stepping stone to climb the corporate ladder. She was manipulating him, playing on his ego, and angling for his job. Mark wasn't just hurting me. He was being played himself. That's when my anger shifted. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the disrespect, the deceit, and the way Mark was willing to risk everything for someone who didn't genuinely care about him. At that moment, I realized I couldn't just let him get away with it. I couldn't just pack my bags and walk away. I needed to hold him accountable. I needed to make him face the consequences of his actions. So I started planning. I consulted with a lawyer, a badass woman named Ms. Evans who wasn't afraid to play dirty. We discussed my options, my rights, and the best way to protect myself. And then we hatched a plan that would not only get me a fair divorce settlement, but would also expose Mark's affair to his company's board of directors. Some people might call it revenge. I prefer to think of it as justice. The day of the board meeting was surreal. I felt like I was watching a movie, except it was my life, and I was the one pulling the strings. Ms. Evans presented the evidence to the board. The emails, the photos, the bank statements, everything. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Mark's face went white. He stammered, he tried to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. The board members were furious. Not just about the affair, but about the ethical implications, the abuse of power, and the potential damage to the company's reputation. Mark was immediately suspended, pending an investigation. His career, his carefully constructed image, was crumbling before his eyes. The divorce was messy, but Miss Evans made sure I was protected. I walked away with a settlement that allowed me to start over, to rebuild my life on my own terms. I won't lie, the aftermath was tough. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed, days when I questioned everything, days when I wondered if I had made the right decision. But I knew deep down that I had done what I needed to do to protect myself and my future. Mark lost everything. His career, his reputation, his family. I don't revel in his downfall, but I also don't regret what I did. He made his choices and he had to face the consequences. After the dust settled, I started to heal. I focused on myself, on my passions, and on building a life that was authentic and fulfilling. I started this channel as a way to share my story and connect with other women who had gone through similar experiences. I wanted to show them that they weren't alone, that they could survive betrayal, and that they could emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. I've shared everything from divorce advice to building your dream after divorce. The response has been overwhelming. I've received messages from women all over the world, thanking me for sharing my story, for giving them hope, and for inspiring them to take control of their lives. Years later, I got a message from Bethany. She apologized for her part in the affair, admitting that she had been naive and manipulated by Mark. She had left the company, struggled for a while, but eventually found her own path. I forgave her. I realized that we were both victims of Mark's selfishness and ambition. We even became friends, supporting each other as we navigated our new lives. We've teamed up for a series called Life After Scandal and Corporate Survival Guide for Women. But then Bethany dropped another bombshell. Bethany told me that Mark had been involved in some shady financial dealings at the company. He had been manipulating the books, inflating profits, and engaging in insider trading. It was the reason he was so desperate for the promotion. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let him get away with it. So, I contacted the authorities and provided them with the information Bethany had given me. The investigation led to Mark's arrest. He was charged with multiple counts of fraud and sentenced to prison. He lost everything again. This is my story. It's a story of betrayal, revenge, and ultimately redemption. It's a story about finding your voice, reclaiming your power, and building a life that is authentic and fulfilling. I've learned so much through this experience. I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I've learned that forgiveness is possible, even after the deepest betrayal. And I've learned that the best revenge is to live a happy, successful life. Thank you for listening. If you've been through something similar, please know that you're not alone. You can get through this. You can rebuild your life. You can find happiness again. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories of resilience and empowerment. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.